So I'm very, honestly speaking, we are very, very happy to support you, and also that we are very, very.
Thank you very much, dear Ambassador, for the interview. Your diplomatic mission is coming to an end in Georgia.
Well, first of all, what I want to say that thank you very much to the Georgian people, and of course, the last 3 years, I had very much enjoyed relationship with the Georgian government and opposition leaders. But the most important things for me is to have a very, very open dialogue with the local people, and this is my very important experiences, and to make my days and life in Georgia is very rich. And because everything starts from the people, and of course Japan can, what Japan can do is very limited, just providing the small grants, and but it is a people to make the country. So last 3 years, I really appreciate your Georgian people's friendship. When I when I was invited to the very nice supra in a Kaheti or anywhere in Georgia, but that I always found very naturally I enjoy this kind of supra, even though that supra went more than several hours, so it's very. I don't think it's a good to me in terms of health, but I couldn't resist, drinking and eating and chatting with the Georgian people. So my very important experience in Georgia is my time with Georgian people. And so maybe you want to ask me that some business aspects or political aspects, and but I hope last 3 years is a really significant year for Georgia and Japan too. 2 years ago, Japanese Foreign Minister Mr. Kono visited Georgia, and the first time as a Japanese Foreign Minister. This is a very significant moment for us to see, and since then, Mr. Kono and the advocate, Japan continue to support Georgia in terms of developing infrastructure, health, and high quality infrastructure, and also the developing the people. So in line with this kind of Japanese policy principle, I try to make my every effort to support Georgia as much as possible, and but that is one of the reasons why I really try to visit local areas and to communicate with them to understand what is a problem and what is a successful story, and what is an aspiration of the Georgian people, ordinary Georgian citizens. So, generally speaking, I really enjoy Georgia, and over the communicating with the Georgian people, and starting with Georgian government officials and politicians. But most important thing is boils down to the local people.
The next question is, what important agreements were officially negotiated in your period? So could you elaborate what treaties those were, and why do you think they are important?
Yeah. Thank you. We have very important 2 negotiations between Japan and Georgia, and regarding tax treaty, and also the investment treaty. And both treaties almost, between Japan and Georgia, we have almost concluded this negotiation. So I don't think that we have a big problems. to lay down in between Georgia and Japan. Because both countries' aspiration is a very, we can share that aspiration or direction of diplomacy. And I understand in the very early next year we will be able to conclude this kind of treaty. I mean, investment treaty and the tax treaty. Both treaties is very important, but especially the investment treaty is very important. We have seen many Japanese businesses want to do the business in Georgia, and they're still in the pipeline. But you know that last April, one of the largest Japanese energy companies called Tokyo Electric Company, we call TEPCO. But TEPCO decided after 3 years, more than 3 years study, and TEPCO decided to invest 1/3 of the equity of Dariari power station. So this is very important, and because Japanese, generally speaking, the Japanese companies are very slow to move, and it takes a very cautious approach. But this is one of the very positive and encouraging, proof for Japanese companies still have a keen interest in doing the business in Georgia.
იაპონურ კომპანიებს აქვთ ინტერესი ჰიდროელექტროსადგურების პროექტებში საქართველოში გარემოს დამცველები უმრავლეს შემთხვევაში ეწინააღმდეგებიან დიდ ჰიდრო პროექტებს.
Energy is very important for them. It's of course, hydro, we have solar energy or something like that, but eco-friendly energy resources are indispensable. And maybe I understand, Georgian populations very concerned is come from environmental issues, right? So, but in Japan, we have a very strict environmental regulations to when the company develop this kind of not only the hydro power station, but that they need to clear very rigid environmental regulation imposed by the government. So I think this kind of approach is applicable to Georgia. We need a very high quality of the infrastructure. If the quality is poor, maybe that kind of infrastructure will do not last long and operate longer. But Japanese business mindset is always pursuing longevity and sustainability. So this high quality infrastructure is very, very important for us. So of course, if we see the very, very this certain hydropower station pose some very risky risks at the environmental situation, we cannot go on the investment in this kind of risky hydropower station. So I hope Georgian side and the Georgian population understand what kind of what quality is required to be a better life of local people, and also that better energy resources for Georgia, country of Georgia. So it's not the contradicting issues. We need to make those requirements compatible. So as I told you that TEPCO decision takes 3 years, more than 3 years. And of course it's not only the spending, TEPCO spending only for the environmental assessment, but they need very much detailed analysis regarding political risks and also the business risks. And every relevant managers need to be accountable to the board of directors meeting, and many directors challenges to these relevant managers how to explain. Business is always both sides of the coins, and we have a profit margin here, and the other side we have the risks. So it is very, very, we need a relevant decision making. So in that case, we need accountability to the stakeholders. And our stakeholder is not only the shareholders. We need to be responsible to the employees, because they are the persons, to work hard to implement this kind of the project. And also that we need to pay full attention to the our customers. Without customers, our business cannot be sustainable. And lastly, and the most important thing is we need to pay attention to the society. If the company cannot win the trust of the society, we cannot do the business. I try to support Japanese business as much as possible to doing the business, and that is a challenge because that for Japanese companies, Georgia is very much a frontier market. So we can easily say that Georgia is too small market, but it's not true. And if we see consumer products, maybe Georgia is a small market. But that in Tbilisi we have 1,200,000 people. So for some consumer goods, it's a good size. But most of the Japanese companies are interested in the big project, under the umbrella of PPP or any other government procurement. Georgia is not a small market in terms of infrastructure, and hydropower is invested by TEPCO is not only the project. We are interested in eco-friendly waste management. We are interested in Tbilisi city developing design planning, or metro, or extension. And so eco-friendly project. So we have many projects we can offer, and Japanese price is a little bit higher than others, in terms of a competitive. But that quality of the businesses and the products is very, very competitive. So including the maintenance cost. Which one is good for you? And for Georgia, it's a very, very required to relevant assessment for the government procurement. So I hope Japanese business is more and more competitive in terms of a long-term perspective.
The question is, what should Georgia do in order to be more attractive and considered as safer for the Japanese investors?
So, generally speaking, the Japanese business is very, very conservative. So they don't go so quickly, and but they always require the risk assessment and the clear profit margin. And for in terms of a profit margin, if we do the business in the longer term, maybe it's some commitment by the government is very, very important, and the commitment by the Georgian partner is very important. If that is, we can't expect this kind of commitment, we can't do the business at all, because we want to operate longer term. So it's not the business. Japanese business is not only making money today or tomorrow. We try to develop this kind of the business with benefit for the benefit of Japanese businesses and the Georgian side, and investors. Yes. This one is a very much friendly commitment to each other. And so I hope Georgian side is fully understand this kind of the way of doing the business more for both Japanese companies, and it takes a time, and we can't do within a very short time period. So very important thing is building the trust between the two partners and two government, and I hope between the two government, our trust is getting more and more stronger and stronger. But still, last year, thanks to the then Prime Minister Baktaze, he decided to hold a big Japanese business forum in Tokyo. And that is a very, very important thing. And I decided to follow suit, and then we decided to hold and held another business forum in Tbilisi, and then they are very, very well accepted by the Japanese companies, and so business forum we did. So business forum, providing the general aspiration and general knowledge, but now what we need to do is to promote the mutual trust between the individual business guys or business companies, right? And without chemistry or without trust, we cannot expect any businesses. So in Japan, Japanese companies invested in China a lot. So from risk management theory, everybody's theory tells us, please do not put every eggs in one basket. So this is a theory. Do not put every eggs in one basket. Okay. So this is a risk management theory. From this point of view, we put too much eggs in the Chinese basket. So, but that China is very important for us. So we never say we are leaving China. China is still very important neighbors for Japan. So we want to enjoy the mutual benefit between China and Japan and any other countries. What our initiative is not leave China. To Japanese business investment should be diversified with starting with China, the US, European countries, and Asian countries, and I hope our Georgia will jump into this line.
თანამედროვე გეოპოლიტიკური პროცესების გათვალისწინებით სოფლიო რუკაზე სათხილად საქართველოს
Georgia has a very significant role for the international community's benefit. Georgia is trying to develop economic corridors, north and south and east and west. And if Georgia want to be a transit hub, maybe Georgia need to enjoy that very, very cooperation with your neighbors, because connectivity, the road is not only within Georgia. So it's passing through the Asian countries and the European countries. That is a connectivity. So how to make the Georgian connectivity is realistic and also that beneficial to the international community, you need to impose transparent governance for this infrastructure. So in terms of connectivity, and Georgia want to promote this, and every infrastructure, of course, this belongs to Georgia, but Georgia need to think about this infrastructure is also for the benefit of the international community. So it belongs to the Georgia, but Georgia has a very open-minded and open international standard in terms of governance, and then open to the international community. Your neighbors and the surrounding and Japan, European countries can enjoy this Georgian infrastructure. Otherwise, nobody will be able to use this very precious infrastructure.
So how important the Anaklia project is and how realistic it is to complete, considering culture.
So importance of Anaklia deep sea port is not come from Japanese side, and it's come from Georgia. And every Georgian people told me and still telling me Anaklia deep sea port is very important. That's the reason why I decided to support Georgia. And I don't know that, what is going on Anaklia is totally depend on the decision making by Georgian people. So if Georgian people or Georgian politics still recognize Anaklia deep sea port, we are happy to support.
So you're talking about political will, if I'm not mistaken.
Not the political will, economic will. Because we need to, Japan need to understand Anaklia deep sea, whether Anaklia deep sea port is economically important to Georgia and politically important to Georgia. But it's not, our decision is should be made by Georgian people and Georgian government. It's not us. It's not the decision making will not and should not be done by Japan.
So the next question is that Japan pays special attention to human security development in the developing countries, and your human-oriented approach is made in Georgia. How did you adjust the support to Georgia during COVID-19 pandemic? Can you tell us about the special support that was given?
Human security is a very basic issue, and we are heading for 2030 SDG goals, and we have only 10 years to go. And this SDG goals always tells us, no one left behind. So it is our part of a responsibility to support the very vulnerable peoples in Georgia. Because for example, just providing the medical facilities or education issues, or today we are seeing agricultural empowerment and the farmers or something like that. Because we see this kind of the small grants or small support to Georgian community is indispensable to encourage Georgian people. So that's the reason why we have done this kind of work under the name of grassroots human securities program. And of course, what we can do for Georgian people is very limited. Providing the small grant doesn't mean anything unless we can expect ownership or a strong will of a local people. So we value the communication with the local people or NGOs to promote this kind of the idea, and as much as possible. Otherwise, so one time providing the small grants doesn't mean anything. So this year is very special, and every country is suffering COVID-19, and so very in July, as far as I remember, the government of Japan has decided to provide $3 million grant, and for Georgian medical sectors to buy very advanced medical equipment. And so I think this is a significant grant from Japan, and also that we are expecting more and more support. And so this kind of the support will continue, but at the same time, Georgia need to develop to operate very healthily to save the people's life, and also that save small businesses. So we are very happy to support you, but we are not the Georgian government, so what we can do is very small, but we want to use this kind of assistance to make a Georgian improvement of the society, is accelerating the improvement of the Georgian society as much as possible.
Ambassador, could you please mention briefly about importance of double taxation, how we can support the relationship between the two countries?
Yeah, of course, so we can eliminate double taxation by the both sides. So it's a very, very good incentive for the private sector, private business to do operating and to invest, and also that to do the businesses. So Japanese companies or Georgian companies does not need to pay twice in the mother country and the investing country. So this kind of tax treaties to avoid this kind of the double taxation is very important to promote the incentives of the private businesses.
In the future, which spheres of economy would be attractive for Georgian and Japanese economic relationship?
For example, that we need to think. Please imagine the trade between Georgia and Japan. And now, Georgian export to Japan is a very minimal, say $10 million or something like that. And from Japan to Georgia, it's trade export from Japan to Georgia is amount to say 200 million or something. Big gap, but it is not a clear picture. And because some of the Japanese goods come from Dubai or Turkey, any other places, So I'm talking about just between Japan and Georgia's trade. And so we need to think about how to promote this. And maybe a Georgian side has an interest in how to promote Georgian export to Japan. And what is so promising products for Georgian products to export to Japan. Maybe a first come is wines, and another one is honey or something like that. Every country is saying the same things, but still that I'm afraid, Georgian export is has not yet done great businesses. And the last year, Georgia government of Georgia held a very big wine exhibition, and in Tokyo, and I thought that drove the big Japanese import Georgian wines from Georgia. But actually it's not, still stagnated because we need a right strategy to sell the very important Georgian wines to Japan. Japan is a very competitive market. So not only the wines, but also that any Georgian products need to be competitive. And you need to be very hard worker to demonstrate the competitive of your products. And otherwise you can't drive the export. And because the big market is always required high quality of the products, and also that the exporter need to win the competition with them. Very basic issue is to comply with the regulation, but the Japanese regulation is not specific at all. Maybe a European standard. If Georgia can comply with the European standard, maybe it's easier for Georgia to export your products to Japan because the Japanese requirement is almost the same. But this kind of the international standard imposed by every country is very important for Georgian exporters to clearly understand and comply with. So this is the starting point, and you need to win the customers' trust after entering into the market. But entering into the market cannot provide you that great success. You need to win the trust of the customers. So for example, how do you win the trust of Japanese wine lovers with Georgian wines? And the Japanese customers don't know much about the Georgian wines. How do you strategically tell the beauty of the Georgian wines? And Japanese market wine market is huge. Do you know that the Japanese wine market, Japan annually every year import 200 million liters per annum. Georgia cannot produce this kind of the huge amount of the wines. So would you like to win the 1% market share? That means 2 million liters, too big for you. So maybe a 0.1% is a target for you. So maybe you don't need to go to the Tokyo supermarket. The supermarket sell the wines, every wines, not only the Georgian wines. Wines very cheap price because it's a supermarket. And so why don't you go to the local cities? Still Japanese local cities are big enough. Like Tbilisi, in terms of population. So you need that stories tells you that you need a very right strategy to penetrating into the very sophisticated market. It's big, so potential is huge, but it's required in a very sophisticated marketing strategy.